Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some very fun Ultra League battles where a team of 3 anti-meta Pokemon are destroying the meta. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Cashton, so many thanks for the battle submission. The team features an XL level 50 Mantine on the lead, Shadow Hippowdon as the save switch, and XL Palisand as the closer. So it goes without saying, this is not a team that's recommended for climbing Elo, it's more so just a showcase of what a great battler can do, even with anti-meta Pokemon. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at this team in action. Hopping into the first match, picking up a positive lead for the level 50 Mantine as it leads into Greedent. Greedent is going to be able to spam out Body Slams, opponent save switches into Jellicent. Unfortunately, not a clear counter switch available, so just going to stay in with the Mantine. Mantine is going to begin to spam out these Aerial Aces. Mantine at level 51 is not able to get up to 2500 combat power. As we see, it's able to get to 2412. So it is a bit underpowered compared to other Pokemon in the format, but even so, these Aerial Aces are adding up onto the Jellicent. Firing off Aerial Ace number 3, that is going to get Jellicent into the red health. Mantine makes it to another Aerial Ace, and this is quite nice. The Jellicent doesn't really have a threat to farm down here, so even if they shield, they're still going to have to go for a Surf. And this is going to set up a very nice Sand Attack farm down for either the Palisand or the Shadow Hippowdon. In comes the Shadow Hippowdon. Cashton is going to look to shield once and farm all the way down. The Shadow Hippowdon's energy can be quite scary. Hippowdon is able to get the farm in the back. That's not what he was hoping to see. It's a Tapu Fini. Firing off the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands is going to connect. No debuff applied, making it to Scorching Sands number 2. This will not KO, but it is going to be getting that Fini very low. Fini commits the shield. Again, we do not see the debuff. Nice overfarm by the opponent, and they're going to be firing off their energy. The Surf will be shielded. Hippowdon farming a switch into the Greedent, and Greedent is going to be met with the Scorching Sands. At this point, as the Hippowdon, you just need to get damage. We see the switch out and the perfect prediction. Getting the call right, catching the Body Slam where it is going to be double resisted. What a beautiful prediction. Oh my goodness. That catch, sensational. The Crunch will connect. Unfortunately, does get the defense drop, and this means the Palisand is actually in danger now. A Crunch will be able to knock out, but that should just set up farm for the Shadow Hippowdon. Crunch picks up the KO, in comes Hippowdon, the switch to Tapu Fini, Hippowdon says no, making it to this Weather Ball Rock, that picks up the KO, Sand Attack, farm down the Greedent, and that is a terrific win to start off these battles. We have a battle of water types in the next match, Mantine versus the Shadow Feraligatr. Considering there's double ground types in the back, it's amazing to catch the Feraligatr on the lead. Feraligatr throws 6 Shadow Claws, so at worst this will be a Crunch, and it will be the Crunch. Crunch, CMP tied to the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace is going to inflict some decent damage onto this Shadow Feraligatr. Feraligatr going to get outpaced here by the Mantine. Mantine is going to overfarm slightly and throw this move right before the Crunch is reached. Not going to be enough to KO the Feraligatr, but a Crunch shouldn't be enough to KO either since the first one didn't debuff. The Crunch will connect the switch to Hippowdon, getting the Sand Attack farm down. Opponent is going to bring out Cresselia. Cresselia, of course, can threaten for super effective damage with the Grass Knot, but one Grass Knot will not KO the Hippowdon. Hippowdon again spamming out these Scorching Sands with lightning fast speed thanks to Sand Attack. The Grass Knot will connect, and that does substantial damage to Hippowdon. Opponent tries for a Scorching Sands catch on a Charizard, and they're going to regret that switch. There's double Weather Ball Rocks ready and waiting to go for this Charizard. Charizard immediately forced a double shield. Switch clock will be up soon. Hippowdon tries to make it to the Weather Ball Rock, but just unable to get there. Charizard now has a lot of energy. And we see the perfect peekaboo play, sending in the Palisand, the switch into the Mantine to get the catch. The undercharge by the opponent. They're going to try and get as much energy as they possibly can, but in this endgame, Palisand looks deadly. We're going to see the charge attack fired off by the Charizard. It will be shielded up by the Palisand. Shadow Ball means good night to the Shadow Charizard. All that's left is Cresselia, and even if they can land a Grass Knot, it will not KO the Sandcastle. The no shield by Palisand. Grass Knot will connect. Palisand making it to the Shadow Ball. The opponent realizes there is no more hope in the game, and they will resign the match as the Shadow Ball connects. Hopping into the next match, picking up a decent lead, Mantine versus the Shadow Dragonite. Matchups like these with the Dragons is where Ice Beam will be very clutch for the Mantine. Opponent ends up throwing their charge attack, but they throw on alignment, giving a wing attack to Mantine for free. Mantine might actually be able to make double Ice Beam because of this. Mantine goes for Ice Beam number 1. It is going to be able to pull a shield from the opponent. Mantine... oh, this will be really, really close. Can it hang on here? It might only survive because of the best buddy, and it does! Barely hangs on, makes the Ice Beam, forces switch or the second shield. They let it go. In comes Registeel, going to deny the farm down and immediately send in a Powdon. I love that play, not giving the opponent even a little bit of an energy head start because you have 2 better responses in the back. Scorching Sands will do substantial damage to that Registeel. Registeel returns fire with the Focus Blast, but Shadow Hippowdon has a pacing advantage. Hippowdon with a very nice overfarm, trying to get as much energy as possible. Opponent has to shield or they will get knocked out, and it is a charge attack priority tie. We do see the Scorching Sands debuff applied as well. Just gonna save the shield for the Palisand, and it's all over for the opponent as they have Tentacruel in the back. Unfortunately for them, they were just so weak to ground. Scorching Sands will connect. They have to build up to a Blizzard if they actually want to try and force a shield here. A Scald will not cut it. Palisand more than happy to let that go. Looking for the farm down. Can't quite get there, but gets the back-breaking catch. Absolute precision in gameplay there. Palisand gets the farm down. Back in comes the Registeel, and we're seeing some bad manners. You love to see it. Going for the Shadow Ball, knocking out the Reggie, and taking the win. A tricky lead awaits in the next match, leading Mantine into Cresselia. Cresselia is just really good at outbulking things, and a Pokemon that can't even make it to 2500 combat power is definitely going to struggle in this matchup. The Aerial Ace connects, and oh my goodness, that just does nothing to the Cresselia. Cresselia able to shake off that damage easily, going to be able to connect with the Moonblast, and Mantine is able to absorb multiple Moonblasts, but these Aerial Aces just really do not keep pace in this matchup. Trying to make it to another Aerial Ace, winning charge attack priority over the Cresselia. This will finally get the Cresselia below 50% HP, but man, that Cresselia just... I mean, it could probably survive 2 more, if we're being very honest. They're going to go for the Grass Knot now, and they know that 1 more Grass Knot will be able to pick up the KO. And all that's left in the back are ground types that really don't want to have to deal with this damage. In comes a switch into a Shadow Feraligatr, and this is going to be an even tougher game than previously thought. Because if Cresselia was difficult, now you add in a Shadow Feraligatr as well. We're going to see the Weather Ball Rock fired that will be shielded up by the Feraligatr, and Feraligatr can't quite make it to the move before another Weather Ball Rock is reached. That will be shielded, the opponent double shielding their Feraligatr. The thing here is the Feraligatr is taking a lot of damage from these sand attacks. Shadow Sand Attack adds up quite a bit. Going to be able to make another Weather Ball Rock. I don't think this is going to be able to knock out the Feraligatr, but it will get them low. Feraligatr going to be able to pick up the KO with this Hydro Cannon. You just really have to hope that Palisand can farm down, and it's something weak to Palisand in the back. It's a Shadow Claw Giratina, and unfortunately that is not weak enough to Palisand for Palisand to be able to win this game. The Shadow Ball is going to do a lot of damage, but look at the health on the Palisand. These super effective Shadow Claws are just doing too much. They're going to be able to land the Shadow Sneak, and yeah, that's just too much damage, unfortunately, for our good friend the Palisand. Palisand now going to be hit with a Dragon Claw as well. Palisand, unfortunately, just not going to be able to take the win, and the opponent gets the 3-ball flex. Mantine on the lead versus another legendary Pokemon, but this time it is Dragon Breath Giratina. Dragon Breath Giratina could potentially have Ancient Power, which would hit for super effective damage, but you know what will also hit for super effective damage? The Ice Beam, and that's able to force the shield. Ancient Power would not KO here though, so we will see the no shield. Opponent is just going to go for the Dragon Claw. They make another move, this will not KO, and now Mantine, while it's not going to be able to pick up a KO, will be able to output some decent damage onto the Giratina and potentially put it closer to Scorching Sands range. The Ice Beam will land, the aggressive switch to Hippowdon, opponent is going to send in a non-Shadow Feraligatr. The Gator being non-Shadow is actually a little bit more difficult here because it means that it's going to be a lot harder to farm it into a Scorching Sands range. Going to fire off the Scorching Sands that will connect, but as we see, it doesn't look like the Hippo is going to be able to farm it down. So instead, just going to fire off the Rock-type Weather Ball. The opponent actually decides to let that go. Back in comes the Giratina. Giratina cannot KO here, so we will see the no shield from the Hippowdon. Hippowdon looking to farm up. going to pick up the knockout with the Weather Ball Rock unless the opponent commits the shield, and then it's all up to their final Pokemon. In the back, oh, it's the Charizard, and Charizard has to give up the final shield here. Weather Ball Rock would do so much damage, and now in comes Palisand. Palisand should be able to survive a Blast Burn here because this is the non-Shadow Charizard. Charizard is going to full send the Blast Burn. That does substantial damage, and it's charge attack priority. The Shadow Ball will not KO, but it is going to be getting that Charizard low, and the sand attacks are adding up. Charizard forced to throw a move as the Scorching Sands would have been reached. Dragon Claw picks up the KO, but in comes Mantine. Mantine gets the wing attack down, and that game will end in victory. There's a big core breaker on the lead in the next match, and its name is Shadow Alolan Sandslash. In comes Shadow Hippowdon, but Hippowdon is immediately going to be met with an Ice Punch, and Shadow on Shadow, that's going to hurt. The shield from the Hippowdon. Opponent is going to send in Poliwrath, and Poliwrath will immediately be met with the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands will connect. It's the non-Shadow Poliwrath, which means it's going to be able to tank that pretty decently. Opponent can threaten a knockout here, and Hippowdon is going to double shield as the opponent will go for the Scald. Hippowdon farming up a ton of energy, going to be trying to pick up the knockout with the Scorching Sands. The Scorching Sands does get shielded, going for the Weather Ball Rock, so close to another Scorching Sands, but not quite there. How precise is the opponent's counting? Not precise enough, and they end up shielding a move that they did not have to shield. They're going to go for an undercharge on the Icy Wind and the farm down. The good news is that Mantine is going to be able to tank this energy from the Poliwrath, no problem. So Mantine is going to be hit with the Icy Wind. Icy Wind will connect, the switch, and attempt at a Sand Attack Snipe. In comes the Alolan Sandslash, but Sandslash down energy not going to be able to outpace. The Scorching Sands is reached. That's going to pick up the KO. Down goes the Sandslash. Opponent, I don't think, can make a move with the Poliwrath. In the back, they have Skeledirge, and Skeledirge is going to have to deal with a super effective Shadow Ball. Skeledirge has some decent bulk in the Ultra League. It barely hangs on, will be able to pick up the knockout, but from here, this is Mantine's game to win. In comes the Mantine. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Picking up a slightly negative lead in the next match, leading into a Tentacruel. Two better responses in the back, however, so I like the immediate save switch to Shadow Hippowdon. Shadow Hippowdon has a nice pacing advantage, choosing to overfarm to play to the CMP tie with the Scald. Very nice, precise gameplay. Scald not going to threaten the Hippowdon. Hippowdon can just farm down here, so the opponent is forced to switch out. They're going to send in Steelix. Steelix looking for the farm down, but due to the precise overfarm in the earlier matchup, Hippowdon makes the Scorching Sands and forces the shield from Steelix. A quick tab out to put the phone on Do Not Disturb, and we're right back in the action. Opponent, this is 5. This could be a crunch, and it is the crunch. That is very unfortunate for the Palisand, as of course Crunch will deal super effective damage. Firing off another Scorching Sands at the Steelix. Steelix double shielding. So the opponent clearly not a big fan of this Palisand. Palisand will commit the shield, as Steelix will go for the Psychic Fangs. Farming up a lot of energy. Opponent tries for a catch on a Tentacruel. The catch is unsuccessful, and they're getting fully farmed down. Are we going to see the Steelix brought back onto the field, or will we see the third? In comes the Steelix. Scorching Sands will not quite KO here. It is going to do a decent amount, but it will not KO. It is going to get them low, and Palisand just wants to get rid of this Steelix. Scorching Sands picks up the KO in the back. Oh no, this is really bad. It's a Shadow Alolan Sandslash. The opponent's entire team weak to ground, but the Steelix was able to get the Palisand low enough that, unfortunately, this Alolan Sandslash in the back is going to be able to sweep the final 2 Pokemon and take the win. This is a situation where having the Water Pulse on Mantine would be quite nice, but in most other situations we saw, like versus the Dragons, Ice Beam proved to be very helpful. It's just unfortunately in this match where it does come back to bite a little bit. Mantine going to be able to make another Aerial Ace, but again, this just does not threaten this Alolan Sandslash. The switch to the Palisand, unable to get the farm down, and unfortunately, that's just game over. Kashtun realizes it, just going to let them move through and move on to the final match. And in the final match, there's a dragon on the lead, and its name is Guzzlord. So, right after a game where having Ice Beam was a liability, Ice Beam suddenly looking great as there is a Guzzlord on the field. Guzzlord is going to connect, dealing some pretty significant damage to the Mantine. Mantine returning fire with the Ice Beam and forcing a shield from the opponent. Opponent, if this is just the Dragon Claw, I don't think it'll quite knock out. But then again, I haven't really run XL Mantine, so I'm not 100% sure on the damage values. A safe switch into an Ampharos. Ampharos going to build up to a potential Trailblaze. Even if it is the Trailblaze, it will not KO, and it is actually the Trailblaze. A rare Ampharos that has not switched to Focus Blast. Back when Swampert was a lot more common, we did see a lot of Trailblaze, but now that Swampert is basically more or less extinct from the Open Ultra League, we end up seeing a lot more Focus Blast, as Focus Blast is very nice for the dragon that's on the screen here, Guzzlord, as well as it can help if you get stuck against Virizion. Unfortunately, Guzzlord is going to get a massive farm down. In comes the Mantine. Mantine looks like it lost charge attack priority there, but it survives. It hangs on. The Dragon Claw does not KO. The XL Mantine going to be able to pick up the knockout. In the end game, it's a Skeledirge. Palossand will have the pacing advantage, but if Skeledirge successfully baits, this could get complicated. The Scorching Sands will be shielded. We do see the attack drop, and it all comes down to this. You have to get the shield call right. Kashtun calls the bait. It's the Disarming Voice, and that is instantly game-winning there. Trusting that the opponent would go for the bait. They do, and now it is Shadow Ball time. This poor Skeledirge getting sent back to the Pokeball, courtesy of Palossand. And that is a good game. All in all, these battles were a ton of fun to watch, so many thanks for sending in the battle submission. I think these battles are a great demonstration of what is possible if you continue to work and improve at your game. All three of these Pokemon, none of them could be considered meta in the Ultra League. We have a level 51 Mantine, which doesn't even get to 2500 combat power, a Shadow Hippowdon, and an XL Palossand, running all three of them together and still being able to pull off some crazy wins against meta Pokemon. Goes to show that how you use the Pokemon is extremely important, almost as important as which Pokemon you're actually using. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.